we're on like almost 10 years, over 12 flags later, and I just want to support the families. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. You can see it's kind of informal, but yet formal. There's a lot to share with you. I'm not going to keep you all here too long, but long enough to share a really important message that I think you guys will be interested in hearing. As Jean had said, my son was a cross-country runner. But what she didn't say was that on December 29th of 2005, he was killed in Iraq. He was a young, energetic athlete who wanted to make a difference for his country. He heard about what had happened in September 11th, right, of 2001. You all weren't alive back then, but probably have heard over and over what tragedy happened in New York, with those terrorist attacks. And many young people were affected by that. And they wanted to make a difference, and they wanted to protect their country, and they wanted to protect their homes. And so they joined, right? They went out there and said, hey, I'm going to put my life on the line, and I'm going to make a difference. And so that's what he did. And he didn't end up coming home. But he was an amazing man, and an incredible friend to me, I miss him every day. But one of the things that happened to me as I went through this process of grieving for him was that I wanted to know that Americans cared. I wanted to know that his life wasn't in vain, and that for some reason he would not be forgotten, right? Because I would never forget him every day. No, I carry him with me everywhere I go. But what about Americans? Because you hear that statistic, maybe you haven't heard that statistic, but that less than 1% of those citizens in our country actually serve. Have you heard that statistic before? Less than 1%. That's less than 1 in 100, decide to serve their country. Anybody here's family in the military? Hey, a few. Any of you here thinking about serving? This isn't a recruitment speech, but yeah, there's a few. So if you look at the numbers in this room, that might just bear out those statistics, right? 1%. And so what I wanted to do with this grief was I wanted to find out whether or not Americans remembered. And so I went on this search, this internet search. We actually had the internet 20 years ago. I went on this internet search to look for ways that Americans remembered. What do we do? What do we say? What do we display? And I didn't find a lot. I found a lot about active duty, right? We have banners that say, pray for our troops, support our troops. We have deployment parties, we have homecoming parties. But when it comes to a soldier losing their life, we didn't really have anything. And why? Because I realized that really death is kind of a somber thing. It's not something that we really want to talk about. Yeah, we can support all those guys, men and women that are over there, fighting for our country, but when one doesn't come home, we kind of forget about them until we get to Memorial Day. We all know what Memorial Day is, right? What I found out in my research was that between 50 and 80% of Americans don't know why we have Memorial Day. Between 50 and 80%. Now, you wouldn't believe that, would you? That's a lot. That's most of everybody doesn't understand that Memorial Day is not about the first day of summer or picnics and hot dogs. It's really about recognizing those that gave their lives so that we could live in a free country. That's really what the day is about. And not the veterans and those that came home and got to raise their families, but those actually that never got to come home and participate in any of those things. So if you have one day set aside that most everybody doesn't know why, then how do we really remember? Do you know that that individual had a family? Were they married? Did they have kids? Were their parents alive? Did they have brothers and sisters? We don't even think about the family side of things. So there is a tradition in this country that we're kind of missed out on. We're getting ready next year for 250 years, right? 250 years of our nation's birth. That's a huge time, right? But those 250 years of anniversary only come because of 250 years of sacrifice to give us those 250 years of freedom. If we don't celebrate the sacrifice, then we don't get it as to why we actually live in a free country. Think about that. And so my response to all of this was to give America a way to remember. If I could create something and get in front of everybody that they couldn't ignore, then maybe people would start to recognize that the price of freedom is something important. So on Memorial Day of 2008, I created what I hoped would become a nationally recognized symbol of remembrance, so that all of us, everybody who has a flagpole in this room, anybody have a flagpole in their house? Yeah? Not very many flagpoles. A couple. Yeah. Boy, that's it. Yeah. So that everybody had a way to say thank you to the families who have sacrificed so much. Right? Because those families are still here. They're with us. They're grieving every single day. And they're wondering, hey, does anybody remember? You know, my son died 20 years ago this year. But does anybody remember? I don't know that they did. And so the Honor and Remember flag, do we have a picture of the flag? Yeah, that's it. That's a little one. The Honor and Remember flag was unveiled on Memorial Day of 2008 to become that national symbol. And it has very specific meaning. You know, I'll just talk about it. So the red field at the top 2/3, stands for the sacrifice of bloodshed for our country. American flag red. The white field below recognizes the purity of that sacrifice, because each one of our men and women, our sons and daughters, our friends, our brothers, said to their families, don't worry, we've got it covered. We'll be back. There's a blue star in the center that goes all the way back to World War I, when a solid blue star was hung on the windows and doors of family members to let their neighbors know that they had somebody in the fight. And if they had more than one relative, there would be more than one star. But when that blue star was overlaid with a gold star, that meant that that loved one was not coming home. This is where we get the term gold star mother, gold star father, gold star sister. Have you heard the term gold star before? This is where it comes from. There's a folded flag underneath those stars. That flag represents that symbolic folding of our nation's symbol that was taken off of the casket, reverently and respectfully folded and handed to that family as a reminder of their loss and as a gift from the nation. And that flag is meant to be put into a shadow box, a triangular box, to be stored and kept there really forever as that reminder. One of the things I like to remind people of is that this nation was built on one folded flag at a time. These men and women are not statistics, but they're individuals who have family and friends and those who love them. The flames above that flag, you've heard the term probably eternal flames. So these are an eternal reminder that we will never forget that sacrifice. And the words below, we will always honor their service and remember them individually by name. So it became my goal right now for 17 years to make sure that this is one of the most recognizable symbols in America. Why? Because without this symbol and all of the lives that it represents, there is no American flag. There is no America. We have to recognize that. And so over the course of that time, 28 states, over half this country, has officially made this flag their state symbol of remembrance. 28 states. That's a huge, huge portion of our country. And right now there's a bill in Congress to actually make this officially a federally legislated symbol of remembrance. Takes a lot of work to get there. We're not there yet. And Nevada, believe it or not, is not one of those 28 states. Anybody interested in legislation? Good. Nevada is not one of those 28 states, and we would sure love to see that happen, especially with all the sacrifice of those that have been given in this country from this state of Nevada. Right? But today, thanks to Gene and the cross country, where are all the cross country guys? Could you stand up? Everybody participate in this, stand up for a minute. Can you give them a hand, please? So I'm sure you guys represent freshmen to seniors, right? Yeah, it's good. You may be seated. So over the course of time, as Gene had mentioned, maybe 10 years, the cross-country team has taken upon themselves to actually find families to honor so that they know, those families know that their loved one has been forgotten, regardless of the time frame. And you see the importance of that. And so this flag is not just meant for all of you to send a message of thanks to these families, but it's also meant for these families to know that individually they have not been forgotten. And so today, as part of this ceremony, and because of their hard work in making that happen, they are sponsoring 2 personalized flags for 2 very special families, the VanDreumel family and the Hennigan family. And we're going to meet them now as we go forward. There's one thing I wanted to say, though, for all of you on your phones, and if you want to learn more about this flag and the mission, there's you can text the word flag. You guys all know how to text, and the number is 41444. So if you remember that, and maybe Gene can put that out there, 41444, just the word flag. You'll get a screen that you can learn more about the symbolism and also, what we're doing as a mission. Okay. So those of you who are going to help with this presentation,
Braden
and
Richard.
Braden and Richard. And then I'm going to ask the VanDreumel family to come forward. Do you have the slide for Joseph? Guys, all the steps over here. One of the things that I was wrestling with as I created this flag was how to make it personal. How to actually make it important to the families so that they realize that they had not been forgotten individually. And so, as you see that flag earlier in a generic form, we have created it in a way that we can actually honor a family individually and not forget their name. Who's going to read a certificate for me? I'm going to say one more thing. So what I'm holding, by the fruit of their work, thank you guys again, is a hand-sewn, personalized honor and remember flag. And the one thing I want to explain is that it's folded in a triangle like this to mirror that American flag that I mentioned was reverently and respectfully handed to them at the memorial of their loss, and then really put away in a box as a reminder of their loss. But this flag is meant to be a celebration of their life. And that's the important part, right? They're gone, yes. There's a finite time for all of us. But what remains is the memories of who we all are. And we want to make sure that we're celebrating that life. We're thankful for that life. We're appreciative of that life, right? And so once this flag is unfolded, it's never to be folded like this again. This is one time as an initial reminder, and then flown respectfully in recognition of how much of a life they gave each of us. Since you're holding the mic, why don't you stand in front of them so that you're reading it to them? That's their flag.
This Honor and Remember flag is presented with eternal gratitude and respect in memory of SPC Joseph A. VanDreumel. With this flag, we honor this patriot's unwavering dedication and remember their selfless sacrifice. By displaying this symbol collectively as a nation, we humbly recognize the enormity of your loss and respectfully say thank you.
I've asked Mr. VanDreumel to say a few words about Joseph, if he would be inclined.
Joe joined the Army late in life. He was 32 years old when he joined. He was a typical high school student, did track and cross country in Denison, Michigan, and was a typical student, forgetting his homework every day, and having his dad come to school and get it for him. So he was just typical, so I suppose a few of you are very much like it. He loved his family. He had 2 kids, beautiful wife, and we're very proud of him to this day. This is his brother, Adam, his older brother, and he also has a sister who's busy at work today, can't get off, but she's saying thank you to all of you, and we sure feel honored, and thank you so much for this school. Thank you.
If we could have the Hennigan family come up, please. And my next certificate reader.
This Honor and Remember flag is presented with eternal gratitude and respect in memory of Sergeant Matthew Hennigan. With this flag, we honor this patriot's unwavering dedication and remember their selfless sacrifice. By displaying this symbol collectively as a nation, we humbly recognize the enormity of your loss and respectfully say thank you.
Matthew, like George's son, was dedicated to joining the Army after 9/11 happened. Matthew went into the Army right when he graduated from high school. He was 17. It was really hard for us to let him go, but it was what he wanted to do, so we stood behind him. We miss him every single day. Every day. He was 20 years old when he was killed in Afghanistan, and we were really fortunate that he had just been home. He had been home in May, and he was killed at the end of June when he went back. He went back June 9th, and he was killed June 30th. But I'll never forget that time that we had with him on his leave, his last leave. And we're so very thankful and fortunate that we had that time with him. And we miss him every day, every single day. Thank you so much. We're so honored that the community remembers him. So thank you.
I lost the microphone, so sorry about that. If we could just honor these families one more time. That concludes the ceremony. It means so much to see so many of you out here. I hope that you go away realizing the importance of what men and women are doing for us, right? So that we can live in this free country, in this free state, and the importance of hey, this could be you.